On July 30th, 1864 AD, the Union and Confederate armies clashed in a military action during the Siege of Petersburg, known as the Battle of the Crater. Union General Ambrose Burnside, known for his unique facial hair, which is known as the sideburns, got the brilliant idea of setting up a mine near the Confederate lines, which, when detonated, would blow a huge hole in their defenses. He ordered members of the Ninth Corps to construct a 511-foot mine shaft to be dug under the Confederate defenses. The mine itself was excavated by miners from the 48th Pennsylvania Potter's Division, and they filled it up with 4 tons of gunpowder. Burnside had a special unit from the United States Colored Troops that was trained and led by Union General Edward Ferrero, a former dancer whose parents immigrated from Spain to perform in New York City as a child. Unfortunately, Ferrero was more known for his entertaining marching drills and precise rifle twirling instead of military tactics, which would come into play later. Major General Meade, who oversaw the entire operation, was having second thoughts about Burnside's decision to not only blow up a hole in the Confederates' defensive trenches, but his scheme of using the colored unit to lead the charge after the mine's detonation. He felt that if the mission failed, the Confederates would execute them if they were captured, and their deaths would cause a political crisis in the North. But many felt that Meade thought personally the soldiers weren't capable of fighting in combat. However, at the last minute, Meade changed the plan, and a lottery was held to see which unit would lead the charge. The unlucky winner was General Ledlie, whose soldiers had no idea about it. On July 30th, around 3:30 in the morning, the mine was supposed to explode, but because of the cheap military-grade fuses, it took over an hour for the mine to detonate. When the gunpowder finally exploded, it created a crater that was 30 feet deep and over 120 feet wide. The explosion killed 278 Confederate defenders. The stunned rebels didn't return fire for over 15 minutes, but Ledlie's troops were not prepared for the explosion, and they waited over 10 minutes before advancing from their trenches toward the enemy lines. They had to climb out of their own trenches, which also took up valuable time without the aid of ladders or trench bridges. The soldiers, instead of going around the crater, all decided to crawl inside of it and try to use it as a rifle pit to shoot at the advancing Confederate troops who were counterattacking. But it wound up being a deadly trap, making them all easy pickings for the rebels. Confederate General William Mahone soon gathered up all the able-bodied soldiers in his division to position themselves around the crater and to take pot shots at the hapless Union soldiers. Burnside's colored unit, which was now relegated to a supporting role, marched straight into the crater to join Ledlie's troops like cattle being led to slaughter. Confederate General Bushrod Johnson decided to join Mahone's turkey shoot and helped him slaughter more Union soldiers. They delivered the coup de grace by ordering artillery fire directly inside the crater. The Union soldiers pinned down inside the crater eventually surrendered, but the members of the colored unit were executed on the spot or were taken back to the Confederate lines where they were killed. A third wave of Union soldiers tried to rout the counterattacking rebels, but the two sides fought to a standstill after a few hours of brutal hand-to-hand combat. According to the book, The Life of Johnny Reb by Bell I. Wiley, following the crater affair, a Reb wrote his home folk that all the colored prisoners would have been killed had it not been for General Mahone, who begged our men to spare them. One of his comrades killed several, he continued. Mahone told him, "For God's sake, stop." The man replied, "Well, Jen, let me kill one more," whereupon, according to the correspondent, he deliberately took out a pocket knife and cut one's throat. The battle was a disaster for the Union Army. They suffered over 500 killed in action, 1,881 wounded in action, and 1,413 soldiers were either captured or went MIA. The Confederate Army lost over 361 soldiers, and 727 were wounded, along with 403 MIAs. An irate Major General Meade brought charges against Burnside for his mishandling of the Battle of the Crater. Ferrero and Ledlie were also brought up on charges for their failure to command. The two of them were found getting drunk in a bunker during the battle. They were passing around a bottle of rum while the fighting was going on. Ledley's career in the Union Army was finished because of his action during the Battle of the Crater, and after a military trial, he was kicked out of the Army by the end of the year. Burnside was put on indefinite leave and was never involved in combat for the rest of the war. He was later exonerated by the United States Congressional Joint Committee on the Conduct of War for his actions at the Battle of the Crater, and the blame for its failure was put on Major General Meade for his refusal to put in Burnside's color unit in first. Ulysses S. Grant, whose testimony helped Burnside's exoneration, told the committee General Burnside wanted to put his color division in front, and I believe he had done it so it would have been a success, but I agreed with General Meade as to his objections to the plan. General Meade said that if we put the colored troops in front and it should prove a failure, it would then be said, and very properly, that we were shoving these people ahead to get killed because we did not care anything about them. But that could not have been said if we put the white troops in front.